Hello and welcome. If you want to become a better programmer, it's absolutely crucial to level up your skill in your main programming language. And if you love Python, you have come to the right place. After several years of using the language, I figured out some important concepts that make me a better software engineer. Although these concepts are important, I never seen them covered in any college course that I took. So if you understand these topics, you will have a huge advantage over other programmers. So without further ado, let's dive in. So in Python, there are two different data types, mutable and immutable. So immutable variables are variables that cannot be changed once we create them. So example of immutable variables are float, integer, boolean, string, and tuples. So let's say I have a variable called x, and I assign the value of x to 1, 2, which is a tuple. I'm going to bring x to the console. So let's run this. And we see 1, 2. Let's say now I want to change the first value of x to something else. Let's say x0 equals to 3. And try to bring x. So Python is going to throw an error because tuple does not support item assignment. Or in other words, tuples is an immutable data structure. Mutable variables, on the other hand, can be updated. Example of mutable variables are list, dictionary, and set. So for example, I have a list of 3 numbers, 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to bring x to the console. Let's say now I want to change the first value of x to 4, for example. And now I bring x. Let's see what we get. So on the first bring statement, we have 1, 2, 3. And after we change it, we have 4, 2, 3. So there's another interesting example that I want to show you. We have a function called change even number to none. So what it does is it looks through every single index, and if the number is an even number, it changes that value to none. Here I create 2 arrays. The first one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the second one is equal to the first one. So I'm going to bring the first array to the console, and then call the function on the second array. Then I bring the array to the console again. So let's see what we have. So we can see that before the change, then the array will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But after the change, nums become 1, none, 3, none, 5. So why is that? We are changing nums too. So why nums1 or nums is also updated. The reason being mutable variables in Python are passed by reference. That means when we assign nums2 equals to nums, we are create 2 pointers that point to the same position in memory. So that means if we change nums to, nums is also updated. So if we want to create 2 separate arrays, we have to create a copy of nums. So I'm going to call copy here. So now when I run the script again, we can see that before the change, nums is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And after the change, it remained the same because now nums and nums2 are 2 separate variables. So the next concept is if underscore underscore name underscore underscore equals underscore underscore main underscore underscore. So let's say I have 2 files, addition and main. So the file addition have a method called add AB. So this method just add 2 number A and B. I also write some tests here because whenever we write a function, we want to make sure it works. I have another file called main.py. So this file, we import the add function from the addition package, and it will perform an add operation on 1 and 2. So now let's say I want to run this test. I will run the addition file. So we see testing, and 1 plus 2 is 3, 1 plus 3 is 4, right? Now we know that the addition function works. We want to run the main.py file. But wait, why are we seeing this line again? When we run main.py, we only have 1 print statement. So So the reason being, when Python import the add function, or when Python import an additional package, it also execute everything in this package. So how can we hide this test from main.py? So the way to do that is to put all of these tests in if underscore underscore name underscore underscore equal to underscore underscore main underscore underscore. So if name equals main, then I put everything inside. Alright, so now when I run python main.py, I only see one statement, 1 plus 2 equals 3. But when I run addition.py, I still see all the testing. So what this statement does is it makes all of this code belong to the package only. So the only way to access this code is to run the package itself. So if we import the package to a different file, this block will not execute. The next concept is default dictionary. So Python has a great library called collections. And this library supports many data structures, but the most common one is default dit. So this data structure is built on top of a normal dictionary, but it also provides default values whenever the key doesn't exist. So consider this example. Let's say we have an array and we try to count the frequency of each element in the array. That's a very common problem. So I have an array here, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 1. So I create a hash map or dictionary. I loop through each element, and then for each element, I'm going to increase the count by 1. Then I print the count. Let's run this. So we can see that there's a key error called 1 here, because 1 doesn't exist in the hash map. So one way to fix this is to add an if statement check here. So if num is not in count, then we're going to create count num equal to 0. We need to initialize an entry for each new key and then increment the count. So if I run this again, so the problem has been fixed. But sometimes we may forget to do this, or sometimes when the application is too complex, you don't want to add additional if statement like this, right? The solution for that is using default dictionary. So I will create count instead of a normal dictionary to be a default dictionary. With this function, you have to pass in the default value, because when we count the frequency, the value of the key should be an integer. So I'm going to pass it in here. I can remove this if block, increase the count for each number by 1. Now I print the count. Let's run this. So everything works. You can see that we have 4 ones. We have 1, 2, and we have 1, 3. So next up, we have list comprehension. So list comprehension is a great technique that allows us to write for loop in one single line. So let's consider the following example. We have two arrays, nums and square. So nums contain 4 integers, 1, 2, 3, 4. Square is an empty array. So we loop through every single number, square it, then add that to the square array, and then bring that to the console. So when we run this, so we can see that the square array contains 4 integers, 1, 4, 9, 16, which is the corresponding square of 1, 2, 3, 4. But we don't want to write too many code like this, right? With list comprehension, we can just write this in one single line. We can write something like square equals num square for num in nums. Now when I run the script again, you can see that it still works. This feature is very convenient, especially when you write machine learning code, because iteration is a very common task. The final thing I want to mention is Lambda function, aka anonymous function. When you define a function in Python, you normally use the keyword def, then define the function name, pass in some argument, and you're gonna write some code here. But with Lambda function, we don't need this structure. We can write the function in a single line of code. I will comment this out. Let's say we have a function that will take in a number and square it. So I call that square. Then return x square. Okay, so if I test this function on 2, so 2 square equals square 2. Let's see what we have. So we see that 2 square is equal 4. So instead of using a function like this, I can make it a lambda function. So we comment this out. For a lambda function, first we need to define a variable represent the function's name. So this is square. And next I'm going to pass in the lambda keyword. So the lambda keyword dictates that this variable square is a lambda function. Next, I'm going to pass in the argument, which is x, colon, then the logic of the function. So the logic of the function is x squared. So now when I run the function again, we see that everything still works. We can apply the lambda function to multiple arguments as well. So let's say we want to add two numbers, a and b. So we have add equals lambda ab. So the logic of the function is a plus b. Then we're gonna bring something to the console. So let's say 1 plus 2 equals to add 1, 2. Run this. Yeah, we see that 1 plus 2 is equal to 3. So Python understands that this is a lambda function. Lambda function is also very useful for sorting an array. So let's say we have an array like 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, minus 1, minus 1, 4. And we want to sort this array, but we don't want to sort that based on the first value. We want to sort it based on the second value. So we can use a lambda function for this. So nums equals, I define a new variable called sorted nums, and this variable equal to sorted. So Python have a built-in sorted function. I'm going to pass the array nums, and this function taking an argument called key. This key here is actually a function. Instead of define a normal function, I'm going to use a lambda function. So lambda x 1. So what it does is it will consider each variable as x, and it's gonna compare the variables using the second value, aka x1. So if I bring sorted num, you can see that all these tuples are sorted based on the second value. So minus 1, 1, 2, and 4. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoy it. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. That supports the channel a lot, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.